Welcome to another episode of Series C Growthonomics. Today, I'm going to continue our conversation on product analytics and we'll talk about pricing analytics. So, pricing analytics is again a very important and detailed field on how you can use data to do better pricing. There are two broad categories, I would say. And a lot of this, just keep this in context. I am explaining things in the highest and most simple manner. There are obviously nuances here, but in order to give you the top line for in each subject, I'm just going to keep it at the highest level. So there are two broad ways of looking at pricing. There's going to be static pricing, and then there's going to be dynamic pricing. And so let's look at the use case, both of the use cases. Static pricing is going back to our bookings.com or a booking for the hotel example, which there's a search, there's a top nav, and so on. Well, that's an example of pricing. That's an example of static. So let's talk about static pricing first. How is your property priced, and how are you going to make sure that each of these properties, whatever their pricing is matching with whatever? So for example, let's say this is bookings.com and this is showing you I'm looking to travel to Kauai, and I am looking for my my room with ocean view, whatever else. So I do my search, and I want to stay on the Kailui side, and so I put in my search parameters and I get some listing, and then I get a property from and I don't know all of those properties which exist, but let's say there's a Hyatt property and it has an ocean view, and it is ocean view, and it is double bed, and it is 500 square meter, whatever. There's a whole list of things so this is the first property is Hyatt. The other one is another booking at a 3-star, some other 3-star hotel, and so on, right? And how do you, when you look at that pricing, this is all dynamic pricing. The pricing that is showing up on your website needs to be comparable to what the users are going to see from a competitive place. So dynamic pricing is where you are going to use a bit of predictive or advanced analytics. And this is another place where you will do not only internal data, but you'll also use external data, external comparative data. These feeds are often available by industry. Within the industry, there are companies which sell aggregated data at the property and day level, kind of property feature and day level. And that's where you're going to marry your external data with your internal data to produce optimal pricing. And that may use some machine learning, that may use some, a lot of times it will be, as of today, a lot of dynamic pricing is being solved by, if there's enough data, is being solved by machine learning and AI, neural networks, essentially. So this is a really good application, I would say, for where you would build a backend tech stack to support the real-time machine learning, which is essentially as soon as you hit a search, when the listing is getting pulled is when the pricing gets pulled. So it's a near real-time algorithms which are being run to say what the pricing is. And so you may, as a user, may have noticed, hey, sometimes same property, when you search on Wednesday, for example, it's a different pricing than when you searched on Monday or Sunday, right? That's all dynamic. That's all examples of dynamic pricing. So that's dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing also involves A/B testing, where you can do a whole bunch of tests. Depending on the perception, depending on the brand perception of your product, you may find that as long as you are, for example, as long as you are within 5, or you can be plus 5% of Expedia and still win the client, whereas you need to be minus 5% of Google, right? To actually win. These kind of insights would basically come from A/B testing. So that's dynamic pricing using internal and external data and understanding what affects your win. How do you close? What affects what? How is the pricing? How does the pricing impact? So it's not always the lowest pricing. You may have a band because your brand you're perceived as a higher brand. Maybe because of the ease of use of your website, people are willing to pay 5% more from another competitor site, but they're not willing to pay maybe 6% more. So that's where your optimal pricing would be, and figuring that out. That brings us to the other subject we started off, which I should have talked about before, which is the static pricing. But static pricing may not be applicable to example that we've been carrying through. So I will take the other example that we have. Let's say it's an app, which is a freemium app, and freemium meaning there's a free component and then there's a paid component, and then that's where your paid component, you might have 3 levels or 2 levels. You have the basic and advanced premium, right? And then the pricing for that, this kind of pricing you would decide one time by various amounts of, by testing, A/B testing, and so on and so forth, that hey, people are ready to pay $2.99 for basic feature, $2.99 per month, whereas for premium they're ready to pay $5.99 or $9.99, right? This is where you will use typically you would use A/B testing as well as a lot of behavioral analytics, right? Behavioral economics, what is called, right? So how do people perceive your brand versus your competitor brand, and the value that you have, the features that you're producing in your basic premium versus the free? How is that perceived, and what pricing? What is the competitive pricing as well? So there's a fair bit of qualitative analysis, focus group analysis, using behavioral economics to make sure the conversion happens, and using A/B testing to see, what kind of offers you are going to get 10% discount if you convert today versus $10 off your one year subscription. All those things will give you your pricing, optimal pricing, as well as the promo on the pricing that works with it. So that's, I would say, roughly 2 categories: static pricing, which is often used for your subscription kind of business, and then dynamic pricing, which is your SKU level pricing, or your keyword pricing, your booking, your property pricing. All of that would be dynamic pricing. The most important thing to remember here is to it's again a very detailed field, and a lot of people, a lot of digital products these days are still using some really fundamental aggregate analysis to do pricing and saying this is what the competitor looks like. Our competitor is offering it for $2.99, so we'll offer it for $2.99, and that may not, depending on the brand perception. Do the A/B testing, see if it is holding up $2.99, or you can actually charge $5.99, so that you don't want to leave money on the table. And that's where I would say that analytics can really come in and help you do optimal pricing. So that is all for today from on product analytics, specifically on pricing analytics. Next time, I want to talk about product analytics metrics that matter, because again, there are gazillion metrics that can be used, and that is used in product, and what are the most important ones. So we'll talk about that next time. See you next time.